discussed in the National Defense Strategy is all about, is making sure that our interests are respected in this hemisphere, with the military playing an important part, but not always the dominant or leading one.
In the cyber domain, how would you define the homeland in the cyber domain?
Maybe I could get back to you, sir, with a more specific answer, just given the complexities there.
Yeah, I understand that. And then I would say this, I couldn't agree more with the number 4, supercharging our defense industrial base. The strategy number 4 pillar in your plan on supercharging. We need to call to industrial arms. We need it today. However, I want to make sure that we're not just investing in weapons and equipment, but the infrastructure needed to build and maintain our factories, hangars, and arsenals. So this is a yes or no question. Does achieving this strategy require us to invest in skilled trades like welding, machining, IT?
I think absolutely, sir. Yeah.
And how does the department encourage growth in these sectors?
Sir, I defer to some of my colleagues in the services and otherwise, P&R, et cetera, but I think we all know that getting a skilled workforce is actually a huge part of addressing this issue.
Well, we've got your back. Thanks for all you do, and God bless America. God bless our troops. Thank you. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair, and I recognize the gentlelady from New Hampshire, Ms. Goodlander.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Colby, thank you for being here today. Am I correct? I think you testified earlier that the department is committed to a $1.5 trillion budget this fiscal year?
I'm not exactly sure what the parameters are, ma'am, but we're advocating for a $1.5 trillion budget under the president's direction.
Mr. Colby, we cannot do our job without your budget. Your budget was due the first Monday in February. Here we are in March. When can we expect your budget?
Ma'am, let me get an answer for you promptly.
We look forward to that answer. You're asking for a 50% increase over the FY26 request. Can you give us any sense of where this plus up is going to be dedicated to within the department?
Ma'am, I wouldn't want to get ahead of the department in terms of the specifics, but I think the conversation we've had here today illuminates a lot of the issues. We all know, as the president indicated, we've got plentiful munitions supplies, and the last administration worked on this as well. But we know we need to, we can work harder on that and get more productive. So I think munitions is going to be a big part of it. Obviously, there's a lot of platforms, some of the personnel issues that were just discussed.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to submit to the record 2 articles from the Washington Post dated August 12th, 2025 and October 30th, 2025, if I may. Thank you. Mr. Colby, these articles detail a plan that you were a part of crafting to send more than 23,000 troops to all 50 states as part of a domestic civil disturbance quick reaction force. Are these reports accurate?
Ma'am, I'd have to get back to you with an answer.
You can't tell us now whether you were a part of this planning or this exists at all?
Ma'am, I just want to make sure I give you accurate answers, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible on the specifics.
I look forward to that. Are American cities, are communities in this country an appropriate training ground for our military?
I mean, I think we have training grounds, if you're using the term, ma'am, literally, throughout the United States. But, I mean, I think the U.S. forces can be deployed in the country for lawful purposes, and they would be. I wouldn't probably characterize them as training grounds myself, but.
You wouldn't. Well, what do you think the president meant when he said on September 30th, 2025, that, quote, we should use American cities as, quote, training grounds for our military National Guard?
I wouldn't speak for the president I mean, that's his words speak for themselves, and we follow his instructions, ma'am.
Are you concerned about National Guard deployments to American cities as part of some training exercise?
Well, ma'am, I think the main purpose, as I understand it, for those is lawfully pursuing, presidential and other authorities to ensure, law and order and other kinds of, or support to law and order, I should say, which are important parts of traditional American. But obviously, the use of the American military, it's been done in the past. We're very careful in how we give advice in the Department of War and make sure that it's lawful.
Mr. Colby, when Secretary Hegseth was here in June, I asked him a very simple question that has one answer and one answer only. I asked him whether the department would abide by a decision of the Supreme Court. Can you make a commitment that if the department is asked to comply with a Supreme Court decision, you will do so?
Well, as I said to Senator Slotkin, we all, commit to the Constitution and so forth, and whatever the appropriate lawful response to a Supreme Court decision is, certainly I will commit to follow it.
Mr. Colby, concerns have been raised on a bipartisan basis in this hearing about your commitment to the truth. And I want to give you an opportunity to truthfully answer a very simple question, which is who won the 2020 presidential election?
Ma'am, I'm not going to talk about that issue. It's not irrelevant to my responsibilities here, but I fully rebut any characterization that I'm not being truthful.
Do you have any question about who won the 2020 presidential election?
Ma'am, that's not on my topic of responsibility here. I'm here
Mr.
to talk
Colby,
about the
you
defense
swore an oath
strategy.
to our Constitution.
did,
You are a
ma'am.
citizen.
Yeah.
You're a lawyer.
I'm not a lawyer, I should have been. Yeah.
Well, you,
I went to law school.
okay. Well, in any event, you swore an oath to the
I
Constitution.
did. Uh-huh.
You will not answer this simple question.
I'm not,
Under oath.
ma'am, I'm not going to be drawn out on an issue of political contention. It's totally irrelevant to my testimony here. I'm here being very open with all of you, and I am being truthful, and I absolutely am being truthful.
Well, it's very disappointing that you won't answer this basic question. With that, I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Gentlelady yields back. Chair now recognizes the gentleman, Mr. Harrigan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Secretary Colby, thanks for your testimony today. Really appreciate it. I would just like to say, you know, I've been disposed in other meetings, but I've been watching C-SPAN here and watching your comments and watching some of the questions from the other side. And, you know, the lack of commitment to the truth is something that continually is coming up from the other side. And I really take issue with that because I've heard many of my colleagues talk about how they don't know what the strategy is. The truth is that they have not read this document. The truth is that only 3 members from this committee actually went in to read the classified version of this document. And so when they sit here and they ask for what is the strategy, they simply don't know because they have not informed themselves. But very clearly there is a strategy, and that strategy is working to turn the tables on our adversaries around the globe, and we are seeing that play out in real time right now thanks to President Trump's commitment to peace through strength. And I think what most of us fail to understand sometimes is that because we were so weak for so long, we have had to exert force to reassert that strength. Certainly, I believe in wholeheartedly what the ranking member has said, which is we've got to have a commitment to the rules-based order. But the reality is when America is perceived to be incapable of enforcing the rules-based order, some things have to change. And I think this administration has properly understood that paradigm and responded to it. Simultaneously, as a veteran of the global war on terror, as many of my fellow veterans are very concerned about long-term, open-ended commitments overseas that take away from our focus on our strategic adversary, our true strategic adversary, which you have properly identified in this document as China. I would also caution my veteran friends to understand that sometimes we have to use force in order to not fight for the long term, that we are using a very specific application of force in such a decisive way that we are actually avoiding long-term conflict. And I think that's exactly what we are doing in Iran right now. So all of this being said, I do have a question for you. Given the action that we are taking in Iran, and when we look at our strategic stocks, our magazine depth, you've talked about your 4th pillar, which is supercharging the defense industrial base. If we are conducting sustained operations in the Middle East, what specific posture adjustments, munitions allocations, or surge authorities are in place right now to ensure that Beijing does not perceive an opportunity to move against Taiwan?
Thank you very much, Congressman. I appreciate your comments very much, and maybe just kind of go in reverse order. I think in that maybe we can get more into in the closed session, but we are paying very close attention to the reactions of other potential opponents out there, and we see very clearly that the prowess of the joint force, which you have referred to, has a deterrent effect, but we are also paying very close attention at the nuts and bolts level, not only in terms of quantity, but in terms of how we're thinking about how we employ or how our armed forces would be employed for most effectively along the lines of a denial defense along the first island chain. So, sir, I think you nailed there. I appreciate your points about veterans, sir, and I know you have a distinguished record yourself. I think that's exactly right. We certainly, I know Secretary Hegseth, all of us in the leadership of the department, Undersecretary Hansel, et cetera, we are all very conscious of this is not another Iraq war. This is not nation building. This is not an endless war. This is, but just as I said in my opening statement, we're not isolationists. We're not restrainers. We're flexible realists. We understand you've got a threat with the Islamic Republic. If you look too weak, then you get another problem. And so you got to get, as you said, sir, the best outcome, which is the fewest Americans, killed over time, or our interests disrespected, important interests disrespected. And sir, I appreciate your point about the truth. I take my commitment to the truth very seriously. To be a little humorous, I think if people who know me know that that is not one of my faults, being deceptive. I might be truthful almost to a fault. So I think I have plenty of other faults, but if that's the best that they can throw at me, anybody who knows me knows I'm not a false person. So I appreciate the opportunity to elaborate on that, sir.
Hey, thank you, Secretary Colby, for all of that clarification. And I truly, truly encourage my colleagues, let's be about national security here, not politics. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. That will bring a close to the open portion of today's hearing. I thank the Secretary for being here, and I think that he has heard some concerns about communication and has pledged to improve communication between his office and this committee, and I look forward to that. We all want the department to be successful, and the best way for us to help that along is by having open channels of communication with your office. So with that, this open session is adjourned. We will reconvene at 1 o'clock in 2212.